Welcome to Computopedia, the channel where we learn about computer science. Still with me, Zikri. In this video, we're going to talk about SubQuery, and this is the 7th video of series in databases. So let's go. SubQuery in select, insert, update, and delete. Now we're going to talk about these four. So what is subquery? Subquery is a query inside a query. So a query within a query. It can also be called as nested query. Technically, subquery is a select statement inside of another statement, such as select, insert, update, delete. And the implementation of subquery are on or after where, in and not in, from, exist and not exist. We'll see about the example after this. So that's the basic theory. A query inside of query. That's it. Now, for the example, we have these two tables. We have job ID, job title, and then basic salary. This is from the job table. And then we have the employee ID, the employee table, last name, first name, email, reports to, job ID, and then the salary itself. So we're going to talk about salary in this example. Let's see here. The first thing that we want to learn to use the subquery is to compare using subqueries. So comparison usually occurs in where clause to compare two values. Subquery can be used to generate value using the select statement to be compared with a value. So the comparison operator is in one of these operator. We have equal to, not equal to. This one is also not equal to. Non-subquery operand, comparison operator, and then subquery. For example, we have select last name, first name, salary from employees where salary is more than the maximum. So we want to select the maximum basic salary from the job. So in this example, we want to display who have the most salary, who have more than the maximum basic salary. And we can see here, which is Chris Evans and Kevin Feige with the salary of this much. So these are the comparison. Another example for comparison, we select star from employees SM where 3 is equal to the job ID. No. Select count from employees where job ID is equal to employees job ID. So we select or we output it the theme, for example, the job ID that have 3 counts. So we see here, we select the count and we select where the count is equal to 3. So if in their team consists of 3 people, and then it will be outputted. So these are for that example. Now we're going to use subqueries in any, in, some, or all. We can see here on each syntax any, in, some, and all. The in itself, we don't really need a comparison operator because in is also like included in a comparison operator, but using any, some, or all, we need to some comparison operator. Now let's see the example. The example is select job title, basic salary from jobs where job ID is equal to any job ID. So any select job ID from employees where salary is more than 10 mil. So in here, select job ID, we get a few job ID. So there may be some 5 job ID that have the salary more than 10 mil. And then we see here that the job ID equals any. So the comparison is that we want to like match for any job ID that match on this select. So that's the any function that match here get outputted. So that are the for this one. Another example, which is in not in, we select where job ID is not in the job ID with basic salary more than 10 mils. So we can just any or in and not in. I think that's very like logic. We all know we have the select ID here, select job ID from employees. So we have like a few job ID, and if the job ID is not in this set, then it's being outputted. But if we use in where job ID in, and then in that set, if there is any job ID that's equal to the job ID, and then that's being outputted. So job ID in select job ID is just like this one. So it's just like this one. Not equal any, I think this is a different result. We have not in, we have where job ID not equal any from here. I think if we done it this way, and then we will just like output everything like not equal to any of this. That means if we have only one not equal, and then it's being outputted as well. So that's totally not related in this kind of query. But in all, so if we use all, then just like any, but it has to apply to all of them. So where the job ID is more than all of them, not just one. So we can see here that this is the job ID is 7, 9, and 8. Because the job ID with the salary of more than 10 millions are 1 to 6. The maximum is 6. So any else job ID, which is 7, 8, 9, 9, are being outputted. Now we're going to talk about subqueries using exist. A self-join will return all records from a table joined with itself. So let's see here. The syntax are select column 1, column 2 from table 1 where exists. So it's in the where clause. And we have the subquery of select column 1, column 2 from table where condition. Okay, let's see the example. For the example, we see here select first name, last name, job ID, salary from employees where exists, select job ID from jobs where employees.job ID equals to jobs.job ID and employee salary it's under 1.1 times the job's basic salary. We see here we must understand the subquery first. We see here the job ID. We select the job ID and jobs where the employee's ID is equal. There is a job ID over here, and the employee's salary is below 110% of the basic salary. Yeah, I think that's that. And we select the job ID if the job ID is exists on this query, subquery. I think this just for the example though, this works just fine, but I think for the reality you can just use an additional where, just like on this one, so it doesn't really need a new subquery like this one. Another example, we see here, select first name, last name, job ID from employees where not exists. Before we use exists, we can use not. So where not exists, select job ID where jobs, from jobs where employees.job ID is equal to jobs.job ID. So we like get the employees without job ID. Yeah, once again, this is like an example of using the subquery, but in real life we can use a better query, just like on the previous videos using join. I think we can use that as well. Now we have subquery in from clause. So the from clause usually refers to a table name. As we can understand that a query using select can result a table. So if we just do select, the result of that select, the output of that select are a table. Therefore, we can use this as the from clause. We can see here the example of the syntax is select column 1, column 2 from a subquery, not from a table. That's totally fine where conditions apply. If we just select column, select star from subquery, and then we can just run the subquery itself. Okay, so the example we can see here, select basic, reason title. So the basic is the basic salary, reason the salary itself. From job.basic salary, and we alias it as basic, which is just like this one. We alias it as basic, em salary as reason, the employee salary as reason, and then the job title as title. From jobs as jo, and inner join employees as em. So we use join over here where the job ID or on the job ID is equal to job am.job ID. And for this example, we can use on or where. I think MySQL are able to distinguish between these two, but there will be no difference between these two. And we need to alias it. So we need to give an alias for this subquery as salary job. So giving an alias is a good practice. You really need to do that as well. Where reason is more than 10 mil, I think. Yeah. So we see here that the select basic, reason, and title where the reason are more than 10 mil. Once again, yeah, I think we can use another query. That's totally fine. Now we want to use subquery. Subquery result can be used as parameters in insert and update clause. Let's see. We have insert into jobs with the job title and basic salary as the input. The values is vice president, and we just need to select 1 point. So this is 125% of the maximum salary from the employees. Then we will get this result, which is the vice president will have the basic salary of 33 million. So this is on the insert. We can insert from the values from another table using SubQuery. This is a good example of using SubQuery rather than the previous ones. Yeah. And for the update, I think it's similar. Update jobs, we set the basic salary. We select the 10% for from the minimum salary from employees, where basic salary is 0 and job ID is select distinct job ID from employees, select star from jobs. So first, the select star from jobs is just to give this result. So it's not being used for the update process. But we can see here, we just want to make a 10% salary for the one who doesn't have basic salary. As we see on the before tables, we have fans. Fans does not have basic salary, but on this update, the basic salary of the fans are being updated by 10% of the minimum salary for the employees. So this one is just like 10,000, because when we see the 10% here, we see the Chris Pratt was only 1,000, I think, rupiah, 100,000 rupiahs as the salary. And for this one, the basic salary is not there. And then we can just add 10% of the minimum salary on this employee table. Yeah, I think that's that from this video. I'm going to add a few more things. I think if you want to see here, we haven't talked about the sum. You need to read more, I think, about the sum. Just find it on another source. And yeah, we already talked about the select, in the select, in the insert, in update, in delete. So in the select is in where or in from. In axis and not axis, I think we already see that on this one. Yes. And the from, yeah, we already implement in this side of the SubQuery. I hope this will help, and yeah, and I think that's that for this video. So there will be another 3 more videos. Hopefully you will subscribe, like this video, and also comment if you have any question. I will try to answer it my best. And I'll see you on the next 3 videos until this series of database video ended. So once again, thank you. See you on the next video. Bye bye.